So I want to dive a little bit deeper today and talk about, when you're in pursuit of a big goal or just really making big adjustments in your life, it is so important to have good counsel. Okay. And what do I mean by good counsel? I mean people who are there to be a soundboard, to love you, to support you, but to also poke holes in whatever you're going through and your opinions and all that along the way so that you can expand and free yourself of the limited scope that you're seeing from. Now, the reality is every single human has some type of container and confinement that they exist in. And of course, as we grow, we can evolve and we expand, which is great. But there's only so much we can do on our own. It's a biological need to have connection and love. And when you're in pursuit of something beyond what you've ever experienced, and that can be making seven figures, that can be starting a new business, that can be having a healthy, loving relationship, that could be just living from a place of peace in your day to day. If you're in pursuit of something you haven't had before, it is so important to get outside counsel, mainly for the fact that you can alleviate a lot of the challenges and road bumps you're going to inevitably encounter along the way. Okay. Like there are people who have gone through what you've gone through, who are living the reality that you want to live, that can offer a different perspective. And if you're not utilizing that or seeking that out, you're making your journey so much harder. Okay. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you are similar to me in you're an overachiever, a type A personality. You might be a business owner, a professional, an executive, whatever the case is. But people who typically fall into these positions are people who are used to just figuring it out. Okay, I'll figure it out. People come to you for the answers, and you know to just how to just put your head down and power through, which is great. It's definitely admirable. Okay. But also, we are typically the people who have the hardest time asking for help. And sometimes that can be a pride thing. We don't want to look like we need help. But usually, under the surface, it's that we just are scared to show our vulnerability, or we're scared to just be seen for where we're truly at. And we don't want to be let down by finally working up the courage to ask someone for help. And if they can't, or they don't really see us for where we're at, the fear of that exposure is enough to be like, I'm just going to figure it out myself. Okay. But this is such a disservice. And again, you're making your path that much more difficult just by not taking the time to ask for help. Okay. Now, I do want to touch on what it takes, what makes up good counsel. Okay. Because I think there's two types of people you're going to encounter along your journey when it comes to receiving help or feedback. And both are valuable, but they are two different types of people. Okay. So the first set are the people who mirror back to you your triggers in a way where it's maybe not the most supportive to the journey. However, it is very indicative of where you're at. So, for instance, I have a girlfriend who, her and I both orient pretty similarly when it comes to business and relationships. We're both go getters, overachievers. Will in the past, I don't do it. I don't do it anymore, but work ourselves to the bone just to prove, that we can do it, that we're capable. In relationships, we're both similarly anxious, typically overthinkers, and, kind of go to worst case scenario. And so this is something I've actively been working on for years to relieve myself of a lot of these things. However, when I run into certain issues, let's say in relationships, and I go to talk to her, she loves me dearly, but her go-to is to speak to those parts of me that I am trying to free myself of. So she tends to activate my anxiety. She tends to activate my overthinking and my worst case scenario. And it had gotten to a point where when I had issues, I was trying not to go to her purely for the fact that I knew if I did, she would activate this very side of me that made me feel worse about myself. Okay. Now, the thing is it was not her fault. And although I was like, okay, I just can't talk to her anymore, I had to realize that what she was doing by mirroring that stuff back to me was just highlighting to me that I still wasn't free in certain areas. And so the importance of having someone like that on your path is that they're showing you where you're still stuck, and she can only activate in me something that already exists within me. So she can't make me feel anxious. The anxiety already exists within me. She's just highlighting it. Okay. So that's one person you're going to encounter on your journey. The other person you're going to encounter on your journey are the people who have been where you are, who are maybe living the reality you want to live, or have achieved the things that you want to achieve. And what they're going to do is they're going to poke holes in your current frame of mind, but in a way that's very supportive and loving. Okay. They're going to question your beliefs and your feelings. They're going to question your thoughts. They're going to be very investigative towards your opinions and your beliefs so that you can start to shift and be malleable in those things. But as they do that, they're going to support you and love you along the way. So these people are typically the people that can see your blind spots, but they accept you for where you're at. And they also are equally accepting of the path that you're growing on. Okay. And it's not that the first person can't be the latter, but I found in my experience, both present themselves. Okay. Now, the thing is, you need both to have a fully equipped counsel. Okay. We have to realize that our thoughts and feelings do not represent fact. Okay. And I know that's hard to accept because it feels so real, because you're in your body all day long. You're thinking all the things, you're feeling on the things, and you're like, Minty, how are they not real? Like I'm living with them 24/7. I'm telling you right now, they're real. The experience is real, but that doesn't mean they represent the facts of the situation. Okay. I think we can all agree that thoughts and feelings are fleeting. Like, how many thousands of thoughts do you have in a day? How many, maybe not thousands of feelings, but how much can your feelings shift throughout a day based on one little interaction or one little look or one little word or the weather changing? Our feelings shift all day long. The facts of a situation don't typically change that quickly. And if we're constantly looking at our thoughts and feelings to determine facts of situations, that's where we can get really limited sometimes. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't pay attention to your thoughts and you shouldn't pay attention to your feelings, but the key is discernment. Okay? Discernment as to, are these feelings coming up just because I don't actually, how do I say this? Like, are these feelings arising because it's out of fear? Are these feelings arising because it's the truth of the moment? And I guess fear is still the truth of the moment. But yeah, I guess I can't say it any better than we just have to have discernment, right? Because when you think about moving towards anything new, okay, again, a new job, living in a new city, in a new relationship, it is always going to feel scary. It is always going to be uncomfortable. There's always going to be an element of the unknown, right? But despite all that, if the facts of that situation are showing that you're moving towards growth or towards what your ultimate goal is, then we have to acknowledge the feeling, but not be held by them or not let them run the show. Okay. So, for instance, if, let's say you are starting a new job, okay, and the first few days you're like, I don't know how to use the CRM. Um, it's really hard to talk to my boss. Like he doesn't really stop and make any time for me. I don't know where some of these facilities are. I don't know the protocol in this area. Everything's going to feel like you're a fish out of water, right? But we know enough that eventually, as we learn and adapt and grow, that those things will start to feel more comfortable, and then we can kind of settle into the position. Now, sometimes those adaptive periods might take longer than we think. And, it might take, instead of a month at a job, it might take 6 months to get acclimated, right? But despite your feelings of maybe wanting to quit at times or questioning if this is what you really want, you have to be able to step back and look at, is this in alignment with the bigger picture of what I'm trying to create? I have a girlfriend that always says it's hard to see the picture when you're inside the frame, right? Meaning if we're in it, how are we able to really step back and see the grand scope of everything if we're constantly stuck in it, right? And this is why having counsel is so important, right? Because if they know what we're optimizing for, what the ultimate goal is for us, they can therefore identify our blind spots for us in the moment and give us some feedback as to how we can continue on this path. But if we never seek out counsel, how do we ever expect to really get to the big picture? How do we know, or I guess it's not even about knowing, but how do we make our path to getting to that goal? I don't know what the proper way to say this, but we don't have to suffer. I guess is what I'm saying, is like we can suffer less in the process of getting to that goal if we have proper counsel. They're there to offer it to us, right? But again, you have to want to seek that out. And counsel can be in the form of friends, your spouse, a therapist, a coach, but you want to be committed on your path of growth to having outside counsel that can show you a different lens, that can offer you a different perspective. And I promise, if you seek this out, this will be one of the best things you've ever done for yourself. And the truth is, I know a lot of my clients and even myself at times have thought, well, I don't want to bother people, or they're busy. I feel guilty asking for help. Think about when you've had the chance to help someone before and they've come to you with a problem, be it about a job or a relationship. Doesn't it feel so good to help someone through that, to help them identify their blind spots and see around the limited scope that they have and give them those aha moments? I tell you, that is the most rewarding part of my job, is that I get to reframe things for people, help them see where they're a little limited in their scope. And when they have those aha moments, when it clicks, it is the most rewarding thing ever. And it is just such a moment of beauty and love. That's the best way I can say it. It is the most rewarding thing ever. And so when you're sitting here being like, well, I don't want to bother people, think about the opportunity you're granting them to be of service to you, because we do know how good it feels to be of service to people when it's coming from a genuine, loving place. So, all I want to say in this episode, I'm going to keep it short and sweet, is that if you don't currently have counsel in your life, I urge you to seek it out. And again, that could be in someone that's currently in your life. Maybe that's, again, bringing on a coach or a therapist. Maybe that's just listening to podcasts or watching YouTube videos or reading books of people who, again, have done what you're trying to do and who can offer you a different perspective and a shift and some tools. But if we constantly make the journey of life if we isolate ourselves on the journey of life, we're just making it harder than it needs to be. We truly are. And I am a full believer that we are solely responsible for our experience on earth. Yes, things happen, but we as a soul attract these things because these opportunities, these peoples, these circumstances are there to show us where we can free ourselves more and become a bigger, better version of ourselves. And so when we can take that responsibility and really hold ourselves accountable, it puts the power back in our hands. It puts the power back in our hands, knowing that we're not a victim, but we are a creator of our life. And when you can do that, and then again, allow people to support you along the way, that's when the journey becomes so much more fun. Honestly, it becomes more fun, more rewarding, and you just realize that we're all connected. We're all humans. We've all gone through similar experiences, maybe just has looked a little bit different, and we're here just to help each other along the way. So, if there's anything you get from this episode, I would just say, where can you seek counsel in your life? And where can you allow these people to help you and show you where you need to stop buying your own bullshit, right? And start seeing life from a different perspective. And if they can do that and hold space for you in a place of love, you've hit the jackpot.